Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome again to Morning Coffee and a Thought, brought to you by Wings of Faith Ministries here in Sarnia, Ontario. Great to be with you. I've got my coffee here. I hope you have yours. This morning, I want to talk about an unusual incident recorded in Luke chapter 8, although Matthew and Mark both recorded as well. It's not the event, though, so much I want to center on, although we're going to talk about it, as to the people's response to the event. And we'll get to all of that in just a moment. First of all, I want to remind you that Morning Coffee and a Thought can be viewed on our YouTube channel every Friday, beginning at 1 p.m. and at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning on our Facebook page. You can also view Journey of Insight every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. Al and I are covering the foundational truths of the Christian faith as laid out in Hebrews chapter 6. By the way, if you want any information, or if you have a prayer request, or you want to make a donation to our ministry, just reach out to us at wingsoffaithministries.ca. All right, let's get back to our thought. Jesus and his disciples have just landed in the Gerasenes, predominantly populated by non-Jewish people. Now, they've just come through a furious storm that hit the lake, and the disciples witnessed Christ's power when he calmed the wind and the waves as they were crossing the sea. So they were stunned at this whole action of Christ. But as they land on the shore, all of a sudden a shouting match begins between Jesus and a demonic who comes from the tombs to meet him, shouting at the top of his voice. Now, there were more than just Jesus, the disciples, and this madman. There are also people on the hillsides who are tending livestock. Now, this would have occurred pretty late in the evening. And so the shouting match ensues between the demonic and Jesus. The demonic states that his name is Legion, meaning there were thousands of demons involved in this possession. The demons begged Jesus to not send them back to the abyss, but allow them to go into a herd of swine that was grazing on the side of the sea. Jesus gives them permission to do so, and these demons leave the man, and the man now is completely restored and has his right mind. So those tending the livestock on these hills, witnessing the shouting match and then the exorcism, now run into the town of Curza and are telling the townsfolk all about what they have just witnessed. The townfolk respond by coming out to see it for themselves. They probably can't believe this. Now, I want to digress for a moment. This demonic had lived among these people for years. The scriptures tell us that many times they had confined him with chains, but he simply just broke the chains apart. And no single man was strong enough to ever subdue him. So this was their life in Curza for quite a long time, dealing with this madman who lived among the tombs, continually cutting himself and yelling at the top of his voice. So you would think that when these townspeople came out to witness this miracle, this exorcism, that they would have been more than happy with the result. The scriptures tell us they came out, they found the madman restored to his right mind, and he had dressed himself in some clothes that were probably given to him. But as I said, it's the response of these people that I want to talk about. When they witness all this, they see the man, he's dressed. You would think that, wow, he's made our situation here a whole lot better, that they would have welcomed Jesus into their midst. But that's not what happens. In fact, these people now tell Jesus to leave the area. Jesus will let them have their way. He gets back in the boat and decides to sail back over the Sea of Galilee. The demonic, who has been cured, says to Jesus, I want to come with you. But Jesus tells him, no, stay here and testify as to what God has done for you. Now, as I was thinking about this story and the people's response to the exorcism, it tells me that no matter how bad life can be for people, or whatever situation they find themselves in, they still won't give room for Christ. They don't want to allow him into their lives. Now, these people experienced the power of God. Those shepherds on the hills, except for the loss of the sheep or the pigs, they witnessed a miracle of God. The townspeople could see it for themselves. And yet their response to it all was to tell Jesus to leave. You know, not everybody is going to allow Jesus into their lives. Even those who might experience God's power in their life for the good. Yet out of fear or just liking the life they have no room for Christ. And like these people, they would just as soon Jesus leave them. You know, in the Gospels, Mark chapter 4, there's a parable about a farmer sowing seed. And what happens to that seed when it hits the ground? Some seed, of course, is eaten by birds. Other seed grows a little bit and then the sun withers it. Other seed grows, starts to grow into plants, but the weeds and thorns around it choke it. Finally, there was seed that lands on the ground and actually produces a crop. What the parable is telling us is that when Jesus comes into lives, or when the Word of God is preached, not everyone's going to respond in a positive way. In fact, according to this parable, only 25% will actually receive the Word of God and allow it to germinate and grow in their lives. One thing we must accept as believers is not everybody is going to want Jesus into their lives. And to take it to the Christian community, God can speak to us, and we, even as Christians, can decide we have no room for that particular word in our hearts. We're quite satisfied with life the way it is, and accepting that word might change our lives. The people of the Gerasenes, a people who, despite witnessing the power of God, did not want Jesus in their midst. And we have to realize today that there are people in this world who just don't want Christ in their lives. Even after witnessing the power of God, they still are quite happy with their lives the way they are. And we as believers can be the same way when we don't open our hearts to receive a new word from God, but are quite happy with our lives the way they are. It's something we really need to think about, this thought this morning. What do we do with the Word of God, with the power of God, with God manifesting Himself in our lives? Do we accept it and ask Him to continue to manifest that power? Or do we say, no, I like my life as it is, and I really don't need that Word, or I really don't need Jesus in my life? Something to think about this morning. I'm very thankful for those of us who have accepted Christ, and I would certainly recommend to anyone that when Jesus comes knocking at your door, that you not be like the people of the Gerasenes, but you accept Him into your life and have Him make a great difference and change in the life you live. Listen, have a good morning, enjoy your coffee. We'll talk to you again next week.